Happy Friday, my darlings. Today we're going to learn the formula for finding a volume. And you'll realize that you already know what it is because we've been doing it all along. So, let's take a peek. Both prisms here show the same dimensions and have the same volume. We're going to stop looking at our rectangular prisms using cubes now, and we're going to look at them without the cubes. So in this case, we still have the cubes. This is 4 cubic inches, this is 4 cubic inches, 3 cubic inches. Here, it's the same dimensions, but we're not looking at the cubes. So we'll see that nothing changes. For our Unlock the Problem, Mike is making a box to hold his favorite DVDs. The length of the box is 7 inches. The width of the box is 5 inches, and the height is 3 inches. What is the volume that of the box Mike is making? So, what I'd like you to see now is the formal volume formula. To find the volume of a rectangular prism, what we do is we use length times width times height. This is how we write it, length times width times height. You're going to be using this all through the rest of middle school and in high school when you go to geometry, okay? Just to show you, this is nothing different than what we've been doing because the length times the width in the formula is just when we're finding the area of the base. Like we did yesterday, we found the area of the base and then we multiplied it by the height. So guess what? Technically, we're doing the exact same thing. This is the easiest way to find volume, okay? So this is, to solve this problem and unlock the problem, we're going to use the formula first, and then we're going to look at the other way, which is to find the area of the base multiplied by the height, and you'll see that it's literally the same thing. So if you draw yourself a little sketch of the box Mike's making, you see the length is 7, the width is 5, and the height is 3. So we're just going to write it out. Length is 7, width is 5, height is 3. And then we're going to use the formula, length times width times height. Now, instead of doing these steps, they're the same steps. I'm just going to take it over here because I want to show you guys how I do it. When I solve a problem with volume, I set it up by writing the formula first. I write volume equals length times width times height. And then what I do is I write out each. The length is 7, the width is 5, and the height is 3. And then what I do is I put it into my formula like this. Volume equals length times width times height. 7 times 5 times 3. And then what I want you guys to think of when you do this is I want you to think of like order of operations problems. Instead of getting overwhelmed by this, you can do 2 at a time. You can do whichever ones you want. So if I do 7 times 5 first, I know that that's going to be 35. So my volume is equal to 35 times 3. And this is the same thing that they're doing here, just not written out nice and organized. So the length times the width, that's 7 times 5, which I just said. And now we're going to do 35 times 3. So I'm going to take it off to the side here. And I'm going to multiply. 3 times 5 is 15. Carry the 1. 3 times 3 is 9, and 1 more is 10. So my volume is 105, and then I just make sure I have the right units, inches cubed, or cubic inches. And that's my answer. This is how we're going to do it in the higher level math, so I want to show it to you this way so that you get used to it now. So one last time, I write my formula. I write each of my dimensions, and then I basically put them all in their spot, length times width times height, and I do 2 at a time, and then whichever one is the last one, I usually have to set it up and find my answer, and I include my units. So the volume of Mike's DVD box is 105 cubic units. Voila! Now, the alternate way to do this, which is really not an alternate way because it's basically the same thing, but what you do is you can find the area of the base first, and then multiply it by the height. So we're going to do a different problem for this, but just showing you the other way to think of volume instead of memorizing it as the length times the width times the height is the area of the base times the height. And the reason why this is important is because when you get into geometry and we start learning about it in 7th grade and then we go into it in high school, you're going to be finding the volume of other shapes. And instead of it being length times width, other shapes have a different shaped area. So what you do is you find the area of the base and then multiply it by the height. So this is an important thing for you to know, because this is how you find the volume of any prism, basically, for your future. I'm just telling you, for your future. So what you can do is find the area of the base and multiply it by the height, which is the same thing as doing length times width times height. So Amelia's family has a sandcastle. This kit includes molds for several solid figures that can be used to make sandcastles. One of the molds is a rectangular prism like the one shown at the right. How much sand will it take to fill the mold? So, sorry, I should have written this above. It looks like in a formula form, the area of the base is represented by a capital B. Sorry, I should have written that before. So you can use this way, the area of the base. And what you're going to do is you're going to say, okay, what kind of shape is my base? It's a rectangle, so that's length times width. So you're going to find the area of your base, which is going to be 5 times 4 times the height. So this is going to be, let me write it over here, the area of the base times the height. So that's going to be 5 times 4 times the height, which is 8. Okay? And then 5 times 4 is 20 times 8. I do 2 times 8, which is 16, and I add my 0 on. And that's inches cubed. So my volume is inches cubed. And the idea here is, this is going to be 20 times 8. The idea here is, when you know the area of your base, you realize that the length times width times height formula is just exactly the same thing as this. This is important for what I said before. In the future, you're going to be finding the volume using the area of the base times the height, because the base is not always a rectangle. Okay? All right, so we have the try this section, and I gave you guys a little extra. So I'm going to do these two, and then we'll go to the back. So we're going to find the volume here. It's set up the way kind of like I did it before. So I write length times width times height. The only thing that's not here is that I like to do L, W, and H. So the length is 7, the width is 4, height is 5. Okay, so I'm going to do length times width times height. Now you don't have to just go in order. You don't have to do 7 times 4 just because it's first. If you see something that's going to make your multiplication easier, then do that. For example, 4 times 5 is 20. That's going to be much easier to multiply than doing 28 times 5 because I have a 0 here. So 7 times 2 is 14, and add my 0, 140 cubic feet. How delightful. Okay, now this is a tricky one. Find the unknown measurement. We are given the volume here, and we're given the length and the width, and we want to figure out what that missing piece is. So 5 times 4 is my length and width, and I'm trying to figure out what the height is. So this is 20 times something gives me 60. So you want to try to think what it's going to be. And the way that you can do this is just divide 60 by 20, or you can think in your head, what times 20 gives me 60? And this is algebra, guys. And hopefully you know that it is 3. Okay, that's just kind of a fun application. All right, so just to clarify for you guys, I don't want anyone to be freaking out. You don't have to find any missing dimensions on your homework. All you have to do is find the volume. That was just for fun. Okay, so I'm going to do the two share and show, and you guys are going to do that on your own. Okay, so I'm going to show you my way how I write it all out, okay? I have to find the volume of these two rectangular prisms. So my first step, I always write the volume formula. Length times width times height. And then L is 2, width is 4, height is 5, okay? And then I plug it all in. The volume is the length times the width times the height. So 2 times 4 times 5. 2 times 4 times 5. And again, I can choose what I want to multiply first. I can do 8 times 5. I can do 20 times 2. I like the 20 times 2. Even 8 times 5 is easy too. So this is going to be 2 times 20. So my volume is equal to 40 cubic feet. And that's my answer. Okay, I really, really, really want to see you guys trying to set up your problems like this. I know it's not what you're used to, but next year you're going to be learning algebra, and we're going to be evaluating expressions, and this is all going to be, we're going to be doing it all like this, setting things up like this. So I really want you guys to start getting used to it now. So please, none of the stuff off to the side. Try to be organized and do the steps like I am showing you. Okay, and now let's do this one. The volume is equal to the area of the base. Area of the base is length times width times the height. My length here is 4, my width is 4, and my height is 9. So I plug it all in. Length times width times height. Okay? And again, you can pick whichever one you'd like to do first. 16 times 9 or 4 times 36, whatever you want to do. I'll just do 16 times 9, and you can take it off to the side. 9 times 6 is 54, and 9 times 1 is 9, plus 5 is 14. So you get 144 cubic centimeters. Okay, and that's your answer. Okay, so try to remember, while the formula for the volume of a rectangular prism is length times width times height, the reason why it is length times width times height is because in order to find the volume of a prism, we find the area of the base times the height. And remember, that's here, the area of the base. Okay? So you guys are going to try 3 and 4, then pause it and check your answers. Okay, guys. So for number 3, you should have gotten 216. Again, I know it's really easy to just go over here and do 6 times 6 times 6. I really want you guys to be doing this setup, okay? So length, width, and height are all 6. Do 36 times 6, and you get 216, and don't forget those units. And number 4 will get you 192. Again, area of the base, length times width times height. 12 times 4 times 4. I did 48 times 4 because I didn't feel like doing double-digit multiplication, which would have been 12 times 16. This is easier for me. And I did 48 times 4. I got 192. And I remembered my units to be cubed. Okay, guys, this is it. I know that you're probably thinking this is so unnecessary to write this all out, but remember that I have a reason for this. After we have 2 more lessons in this chapter, and then we take our test, and then after that we are doing 6th grade material. So I'm trying to get you guys ready for what's coming next. So please do this the way that I'm asking, even though I know it's easier to just multiply the 3 numbers. And there's a method to my madness, I promise. Okay, guys, have fun.